I have had the opportunity to work in the trenches of management for over 3 decades in industries ranging from environmental to construction to mental health. And throughout all of those experiences, as I've seen managers develop, I can personally attest that being a manager today is one of the most difficult things in the history of management. Management is complicated, and agility is key. And the reality of it is that our health depends on it. Since the moment that we are born, we have a strong and compelling desire for acceptance. That humanistic drive never leaves. And based on a research study conducted by Harvard University over the last 80 years, acceptance in social networks is literally determines how long we live and the quality of life that we have. So if that is true, if acceptance is so important and it drives our happiness, what happens if we don't get it? The reality is the impact of loneliness is difficult. It can be the absolute cause, the detriment to the happiness in our lives. So how does that work in the workplace, right? So as I express some of the experiences that I've had in the management, I can attest that managing people in the environmental industry, or the construction industry, or the mental health industry is all uniquely different. But one of the things that I learned in the mental health field is when we listened to our clients, when we sought treatment plans to increase their behavioral health, it was really driven by 2 major causes. Number 1 is the happiness in their relationships, or lack of it. And a strong number 2 is the relationship they had in their career, their jobs, and in their workforce. Recent studies from the U.S. Surgeon General states that 84% of mental health issues are attributed to at least one factor in the workplace. 74% of us are struggling with some sort of mental health issue. So what do our employers think about it? If there's such a strong connection between where we work and how we feel and the happiness that we enjoy, how is it handled in the workplace? And the reality is it really hasn't garnered much of focus. It really hasn't gained the attention of the employers that we work with and for. And more importantly, what does that mean for overall benefit? In some industries, it's a matter of life and death. When working in an industry, when I found that the rate of death by suicide is 4x the times of the average population, it was heartbreaking. And it was a call to action. So how did we get here? Right? This is through no dire plan, or what it really is a failure of our ability to help move people forward and understand the working conditions that we subject our friends, peers, relatives to. It didn't happen from a plan, but it did start to happen. It started to erode during the rise of the Industrial Revolution, or scientific management. And scientific management can be created for many of the luxuries, the freedoms, the things that we enjoy. But in certain times, it comes at a cost. The way that we look at people in scientific management as a machine, the way that we focus on their productivity as what is the single one best way to improve performance or to improve profitability, comes at the detriment of our health. So the challenges are significant. There's more than one. There's a lot of factors that caused us to reach the point that we are. Some of those could be communication related. Some of them are related to industry culture, education, wages, and all of those issues are probably meant to be addressed outside, or are meant to be addressed outside of this talk. So for the majority of it, what we will focus on is management. Today I mentioned earlier that a manager's role is probably more difficult than it's ever been in history. And so why is that? Because if we think back to the time of scientific management, one of the things was very simple, as a manager's role was to improve the profitability of the organization, period. It was to increase efficiencies that drove profitability. But it's changed. There's been a dilemma that we've been challenged with. And that's for managers to find the balance between shareholder value, wages, environmental conditions, purpose, and the emotional welfare of the people that we work with. Become a lot more complicated. So those decisions, the dilemma is challenged by additional complications. Biases as one of those. And when we speak of biases, there's plenty that we are very familiar with. But I will argue that our biases are not being reduced, they're being increased. The amount of biases that we hold with people increases from social media, from political differences, to religious differences, to geographic differences. It's very difficult to post an ad on social media anymore where somebody doesn't take issue with it. It's a challenge. And those are the challenges that are being faced on the front lines of management. So there's a couple key components that start to become complete. If we can't control biases, what can we control? We can control the self-efficacy of those that lead, of those managers that are challenged with making the difficult decisions on minute by minute, day by day, month by month basis. But that is not controlled by the individual. To a large extent, it's controlled by the organization and their support of the managers in those roles. So if we look at the biases, somewhat limited ability to control, self-efficacy is an opportunity for the culture to be permeated through an organization, for it to support its leaders. What about this concept of emotional agility? Emotional agility is really the practice of learning how to measure your reactions, right? Back historically, management's operated under this pretense of demanding respect or having authority and having control or influence over those that reported to them or to their subordinates. And so what's happened is all these challenges have been created. There's opportunities for disagreement, opportunities for challenges to arise. And what becomes increasingly important for effectiveness is the manager's development of emotional agility. Put simpler ways, if I'm a manager leading an organization and you disagree with me, and you disagree with me in a way or through a means that I don't necessarily agree with, that I learn how to adapt to it. That I learn to continue to solicit your feedback. That I learn the importance of the opinions that you have, regardless if I agree or not. It's an opportunity for me to grow my emotional agility. And it's a practice that isn't consistently practiced or developed in organizations throughout our country. So recent research has shown that when companies invest in improving the emotional agility of their employees, their health will improve and their profits will increase as well. Thanks for giving me an opportunity to share that perspective.